I mean, how do you keep it positive when bad stuff happens in the world around us? How do you keep it positive in a relationship when the person that you love and depend on and trust is doing something that bugs the you know what out of you? How do you keep it positive when your kids that you birthed through a lot of pain and are feeding and getting up in the middle of the night and for all those years and working hard to give them food and shelter, and then they turn to you and but basically flip you off? How do you keep it positive in that? How do you keep it positive about yourself when you got this, you want to do it this way but you do it that way? You say, I'm going to do this, but I don't do that. I do the very things one of my favorite verses says. And, Paul, who struggled with that, he said, the good that I do, I say I'm going to do, I do the very evil that I said I wasn't going to do. And, how do you keep it positive? Well, this is something that philosophers and psychologists, especially psychologists, have dealt with for a long time. And that is because it is a human tendency and developmental tendency to, for the immature mind, and I'm going to say immature, not bad, but immature, meaning we haven't developed to a place where we can hold good and bad together at the same time without getting rid of one of them. Like the Mercury thing, like magnets, just polar opposites. They want to go away because the immature mind doesn't have enough good in it yet to do that. I mean, this is what developmental psychology shows us, that if you've ever talked to a baby, they don't really have, if you go up and say, how's your day going? And they're 6 weeks old, they don't go, well, it's kind of okay. I mean, there are some good points and some bad points. And, I was wet and hungry and cold, but mom, she didn't get to me right away. And that was a little frustrating, but eventually she came. She's a good mom, or whoever's taking care of me. And it's all right. No, babies don't do that. Babies, it's either like, bah, 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 bah. I mean, they're in a milk coma, delusional, drunk on that good stuff, and everything's all good. And they got the warm fuzzies around them, and somebody's holding them and cooing them, and they're just smiling. Or it's all bad. It's all bad. There's no gray. There's no gray. Black and white, good and bad, one or the other. Well, gradually, when they get enough interaction with enough good to comfort the bad, their mind begins to integrate, and the good and the bad come together in what we call in developmental psychology a whole object representation of the self as one of their love objects, right? Who has both good and bad. And other people that I love have both good and bad. And if I see the world that way, then I can have enough good to negotiate the bad in me and others in the world around me. And I can continue for another day undepressed or unanxious or whatever it is that we're feeling. But if we have a tendency when something bad happens to go all bad, then we got a problem. First of all, it doesn't fit reality. And secondly, we can't function that way. If it's all bad, we've lost access to the good and the regulatory functions of our brain or a bunch of other stuff that calms us down. It'd be like your thermostat's not working in the house. Temperature goes up, nothing calms it down. It just, gets too hot or too cold. And that's what we often do. Now, this becomes a problem in relationships, in clinical issues, and in performance. There is so much research to show that optimism, which is not at all, looking at the earth through denial of the bad or splitting of the bad or, rose-colored glasses, it's not that at all. What it is in the existence of the bad that I can maintain a positive valence towards life, connection, orientation, leaning, a positive, or the person, leaning towards that person and keeping the positive while the bad exists. And then we can resolve problems. We can forgive somebody whom we love who fails us or frustrates us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, including yourself. This actually in history of psychology, this came from the psychoanalytic, psychodynamic world, where they learned that there's the good and the bad and immature. In fact, if you are dealing with a narcissistic personality disordered person, or maybe some of that in yourself, or borderline personality, the hallmark tendency is the splitting. It's the chief defense mechanism and orientation and structure of the character, which sets them up for identity diffusion, impulse control, idealized romantic relationships that go bad the next week, and then they're on to the next, and on and on and on. So, after psychodynamic people um, introduced all this, there was one person, was actually back in the 70s, a guy named Aaron Beck, and he said, well, a lot of this happens in your thinking, and that's where cognitive therapy came from. And they said, why don't we start focusing on this tendency of catastrophic thinking about little bitty bad things? Oh no, the world is falling down because dinner burned. Okay, we're going to have crummy dinner tonight, but my whole life isn't over. Or I got a bad review in this quarter, but my career's not over. Or I even lost a job, but I still have skills. But the tendency to make it go all good or all bad. So I just want you to watch that. Um, if you're a Boundaries.me member, there are courses on the resolution of this. But today, I just want to remind you, look, if your spouse or your kid or your job or your boss or whoever or yourself is frustrating you, keep it positive. Don't deny it, but hold on to the good in that relationship and in your life. We know gratitude, for example, even in bad times, can change an entire emotional state of well-being and keep somebody going to solve problems.